Hey guys, Adrian here. Wanted to do a quick demo on the Prospective Grid tool today. If you're like me, you really haven't messed with it all that much. It came out in CS5, and I was reintroduced to it earlier this week and thought it was pretty darn cool and pretty powerful, so I wanted to just do a quick demo to get you guys started. And I think this is a pretty extensive tool set. It's got a lot of power, but even at its most basic, it's got some pretty cool and fun and helpful aspects to it. So it all begins here with this Perspective Grid tool, which you may or may not have ever played with before. I know I've certainly been ignoring it for a while. There's two controls in here. One is the selection tool and one is the grid manipulation tool. So we'll start there. And you'll see as soon as I've interacted with that tool, Illustrator reveals this two-point perspective grid in my document. And my understanding is that you can do some three-point perspective and some pretty sophisticated stuff. You can customize and save your grids as templates so that you can drop them into docs if you end up doing the same kind of perspective drawing a lot, or if you want some basis set up for certain activities you do. Today we're going to keep it simple, just get through the basics, and hopefully whet your appetite. So there's a lot of little handles and knobs and adjustment things here. Once you start messing with it, you realize it's actually pretty straightforward. This guy down here allows you to move the whole grid around. This sets your horizon line. These knobs right here will adjust the left and right side. You can grow the grid, shrink the grid, extend it out to the sides. I think the easiest way to get one's head wrapped around this is to start by just playing with this grid on top of a reference image. You can certainly work without an image, but I think it helps you just sort of understand what's going on. So I've got this street scene here. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to match up the perspective to the scene. So the first thing is I'm just going to grab it and get it sort of squared off here at the bottom. And then we're going to go ahead and set the horizon line, because that's obviously very important for perspective. Let's say it's somewhere around there. Now you can see my front angle is a little off center, so what I want to do is I want to grab these handles that control the sides, and I'll just move that one out of the way for a sec, and then we can drag sides into place, and I'm going to line them up here with the corner of that building. You can see, though, our perspective's still not quite right. It's kind of angling off way too fast for what's going on with the camera angle in the scene. So what we need to do now is just really extend this grid out, and you can start to see where it looks good. And then on this side, it actually looks like it's a bit generous, and so we're going to sort of tighten it up a little bit. So really that's the basics right there. That is establishing our grid. It is now sort of mapped to the image, and now we get in the fun bit, which is actually drawing on this image. As soon as we start interacting with the grid, you have to sort of train your brain to remember a couple things that are different if you're a heavy Illustrator user. So first of all, you're going to need to rely heavily on this perspective selection tool. That gets tricky. You keep forgetting. You keep going back to your normal selection tool or hitting V. But you really got to pay attention and grab this one, because if you start messing with the stuff that's in the grid with the other tool, the grid can get confused and it sort of gets sloppy. So you have to train yourself. The other thing is this little guy, which indicates which plane you're interacting with. And you can see that it's color-coded: blue for this side, orange for this side, green for the floor. That's really important because that's how you're going to communicate with Illustrator about where you want the object that you're playing with to end up. There's some keys for that which are very helpful. One is the left side, 2 is the floor, 3 is the right side, and I think 4 selects none. So really, once you get in the habit of grabbing the selection tool and using those keys, it becomes pretty easy to work with. So a lot of the basic drawing tools will work in Perspective Grid. We'll start with rectangles because those are always easy. Alright, so get on the right layer here. So what I'm going to do here is just start drawing into this perspective. I'm going to start by selecting the right side, and as I draw now, you can see that the box tool here is following the grid. I can still do things like take the space bar to slide my image around, or to slide my object around. I can still use Shift to make it conform to a square, But everything it's doing is being mapped into this perspective-based space now. So you can see if you needed to do, say, a quick illustration of this street scene, you can very, very quickly come in here, get all your blocks in place, and then be able to pull out of here and then do all your coloring and playing with everything. So as we go to the perspective grid selection tool, now you can see that with the bounding boxes enabled, we can go ahead and manipulate, and we're still manipulating within this perspective space, and we can do things like control the order and all that sort of thing. So it behaves very consistently with all the tools you're used to. It's just doing it in this 3D environment, which I just think is so cool, because if you're like me and you've spent a lot of time trying to emulate perspective in Illustrator, this is just a huge time saver. So a couple other things to note. As you're working in this space, you do have the ability to do your option drags just like you would normally have. Oops. And you can see it'll keep forming in space. Of course, you can also go up and down with your option drags, and you can really see how these boxes are shaping themselves into the perspective. So super cool. As I was mentioning, the planes, right now we've all been drawing on that right side plane. If I switch over here to the left side plane and start to draw, you'll see that I will move to the other side. So that's pretty cool. And then if I switch to the floor here, draw a big box in this intersection, you can see how that works. So very simple, very cool. The other nice feature is that with the perspective selection tool, when you grab and start manipulating an object, if you start using these keys, the 1, 2, and 3 keys, you can see that I can switch back and forth between the different perspectives while I have the object selected. So it's pretty handy as well. Let's take a look at another example. I think text is always a pain when you're working in perspective. Let me just clean this up a little bit. Let's hide that guy and just grab ourselves a fresh layer. Okay. So working with text in perspective has always been incredibly painful. There's the effects 3D rotate tool, which is kind of helpful but kind of janky. This is pretty cool. So I say this is pretty cool and create this text object. Just crank that up so we can see what we're looking at. And then I come in here and grab the perspective selection tool. As I grab this object and start to manipulate it, you'll see it's putting it into 3D space. Let's put it over here and slap it on that building. Shift-Command-I will hide the grid if you want to sort of check your work as you're going along, and Shift-Command-I will bring it back. So, in this case, the text remains completely editable. Once you go into isolation mode, you can manipulate the text. So, really, really powerful, cool tool. Last one I'll show you is just real quick. This does work with symbols and groups. I got a logo here, and if I grab that logo with the proper tool, it will get introduced into the 3D environment too. So if we were, say, looking to see if that would fit nicely on this building, you can get a quick sense for that, and then we can go ahead and swap it and try it on this side. Maybe that's a better spot for it. So there you go. That is the Perspective Grid tool. Lots of power, lots of fun. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks.